Everybody, we're going to be starting here in just a minute. I know some of you are new to the channel. We are doing a live recording today of 3 different pieces, but you get to see it all live and behind the screen. If you're not familiar with the show, it is rated R, and R is in, you know, those 80 movies, not those movies that come out in 2024 that pretend like they're rated R. I do have a guest today. I have Spigs from Cypher Unlimited. Him and I don't get to talk as much as we used to. And today we're gonna dive into one of our favorite things, horror games. So I hope you guys are all ready. Stay tuned, get a coffee. We'll see you here in about 2 minutes.
This ad is
I'm speaking out because there's a
What is up, everybody? How are we doing? I obviously have a guest here. I just flashed them on screen. I hope everyone is doing well this lovely Sunday afternoon. We're going to get into a little bit of discussion on how we run horror games, but most importantly, how you can do it better at home as a player and a GM. Because I don't think like the player side of it is talked about enough. Let's cut this song. We'll go into our normal music here. I'm going to bring him over so we can start chatting. I already have some stuff up on screen, but and specifically, I think I have your favorite book up, which is Stay Alive. So how are you doing, bud? We haven't talked in a while on screen. I haven't been on Cypher in ages. What did I do? What did I do wrong? Did I piss somebody off? Not much. Oh, I had to at least start there with it. So you haven't been on EFP Live since I've been doing it in the last year. So we do basically a live, you know, chat like we normally do, just you and I shooting the shit. But we're going to record segments as we go through. The audience who's here regularly is pretty used to it. Got a few people in the crowd. What's up, Serving Hands? Hey, Tiffany. Oh, Dean is here. Dean decided he's going to be one of our friends today. Is that what's going on? Dean,
my older brother's here to represent.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, he wasn't talking yet. I just fixed it. So these are old overlays. So I get to fight and squabble with these motherfuckers for having 2 people on all day. We should be good to go, though. Other than that, I think I got everything set up. So we found out you were on vacation this weekend. And by we, I mean me. And then I also found out, unfortunately, you're not coming to GameWorld.
Yeah, it freaking sucks. Yeah, I got a commitment for work that I have to do.
Oh.
I have to, and what makes it even worse is that I purchased my airline tickets already, so I have to refund that. Dean will be there representing the CU, but yeah, it freaking sucks. I'm not going.
Well, at least the boy
we get to
there.
We usually get to drink, hang out.
I know. I was bringing some special stuff this year, but I guess Dean will have to drink it now instead. What about the other there's the 3 amigos, not the 2 amigos. Is the 3rd amigo gonna be there?
No, unfortunately, Al couldn't make it as well. He has some family commitments and issues that he's dealing with at home, which
that sucks.
We haven't been together at a con. Just on a side note,
Gen
it's
Con?
been like or Game Ho Con 2 years ago was the last time all 3 of us were there.
No, do you guys not see? Because you all moved apart, right? You guys don't see each other as often as you used to. Here, I'm gonna move your camera. You are leaning off screen. You're like this on camera. Like your head's under Stay Alive. Well, so we put a bunch of stuff around. I know you and I run a lot of horror games. We also run horror games very differently.
Yes.
You are primarily a Cypher MCG, obviously, running those games, and I run everything else under the sun lately. And I still run some MCG, but I don't use it for horror that often. So for the audience, we're breaking this down in a couple segments. Since you guys are basically in the green room with us right now while we're doing this, we are gonna do horror prep is gonna be our first segment that we do. And then we're gonna talk about our favorite horror movies as the second segment, and then running horror movies as a game is gonna be our third segment. First segment's a little bigger, but we're gonna kind of go over a little bit of everything. So I think I gave you the notes already. So we're gonna be going from the horror prep down to favorite horror movies. We'll stop there. I'll do a closing and kind of wrap it up. For those who don't know how it goes. Hi, Cryptic. I see Cryptic here. Carbo. I'm assuming those are some CU folks.
Yeah.
So let me get our recording started. What's that?
I said the CU tends to travel.
Oh, yeah. Except for you. You just stay home now. So I'm going to go over to Solo Cam, cut it, get a recording ready to go. Don't leave anyone in the audience just so we can do some live recording at the same time. All right, you guys can see me right now. Let me put up my ad. I love this ad. All right, everybody. 3, 2, start the recording. And 1. Hey, everybody. We're here to talk about horror games and how you can be better at them at home or on the road or really anywhere that you go. Our whole concept today is going to be going over how to be a better horror GM, how to lean in as a player. Players, you are part of the process for gaming. If you think that you just get to sit there and ride along, you're wrong. That's not how it goes. You got to give too. You got to put some skin in the game. And then we're going to record some other segments later. But for this one alone, I do have my wonderful guest with me, Spigs from Cypher Unlimited. Buddy, it has been a pretty long time since we've got to do anything together. What have you been up to, man? How have you done any horror gaming yet?
We run on annual Halloween games. Me and Dean, we always. I happen to be running one tonight, actually, and then I'll be running the same game closer to Halloween. But this year, me and Dean, every year we pick a horror movie, and we both. And this year I'm doing Cujo, so I'm excited.
King's Cujo?
Exactly. So using the Cypher system, of course, but yeah, every year we run a horror game. It's no secret. Anyone that follows Cypher Unlimited knows that I'm the resident horror guy. I love running horror games. You've played in several of my horror games.
I have.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a topic that I love to discuss with you because I have opinions.
So why do you like? Before we get into the nitty gritty, why do you like running horror games so much?
there's a certain, I don't know, there's a certain feeling you get when you could scare the crap out of a table.
That is 100% true.
That's like no other in any other role-playing game.
Yeah.
You know, you could run a successful action scene, or you could run a successful fantasy campaign, but to scare a table takes a certain amount of balls.
It takes work. It takes a lot of work as a GM. So let's talk some like horror inspiration. I have Stay Alive up because I know we're going to talk about this book on and off. I do run some horror in Cypher. Not as much as I used to. Most of my horror, honestly, when I was running Warpaint, for my Warpaint fans that are in here, the Warpaint cup is out today for those who remember. The toothy, nasty looking, just, I don't know. It's got espresso in it today because I didn't have time to make full coffee. But I love running horror for a lot of reasons, but inspiration, you even spoke about it just a little bit. You're running Cujo.
Yes.
Like, are you doing it by the book? Or are you doing it by the movie? Because more people have seen the movie. What is your process for that kind of like finding inspiration for running a game?
I mean, without entirely spoiling it, I'm not necessarily doing the movie. I'm doing a couple of weeks after the movie.
Oh, so you're setting the groundwork more around like the IP.
Yeah.
So that's something we'll definitely have to talk about later, intellectual properties and running intellectual properties.
And traditionally, I would, especially for stuff like horror one-shots, I would try to stay close to the original as possible, like actually replicate what the movie was or what the book was or what the TV show was, whatever. But I felt for Cujo, there's only so much you could do in that, you know, if we was to replicate. It's hard, you know, if you have a group of 5 or 6 people, one dog isn't going to be enough, especially with the long, especially using the Cypher system. The way Cypher system characters tend to stay alive a little longer, I didn't think that was going to work. So I made some, serious tweaks and modifications to what the basis of the story is.
Yes, I find that when I'm running IPs like that, like movies specifically, we'll talk about it a little later, but you got to remember your players may not have seen it, and they sure as shit probably haven't read the book at this time frame for something like Cujo. I find that picking really inspirational points in the movie, like clipping screenshots or clipping moments of the dog or the whole concept behind it, so you can show them. If you use a GM screen, hanging them over it is great, but otherwise just having something you can throw in the middle of the table is awesome. Or if you're one of those miniature people, go print a Cujo 3D mini larger than your other people. But I know movies, for me, I watch a lot of horror movies in general. Like October, I try to do a horror movie a day. I try to get 30 in by the end of October. Because I work from home, I get to just put it on the background and go through. But I also do music as well. Like right now, we're playing horror synthwave playlists from White Bat. They're a DMCA free group. They're awesome. Cujo has some weird music in it. Are you going to use a soundtrack? Are you running this offline? Like, you're going to be able to use like the soundtrack from the movie?
All I have is the main theme song. I'm running it on the server, Roll20. So I have the theme song from the film. Okay. That's the only one I'm actually using. And then I have a go-to playlist of creepy, spooky sounds and horror music that I tend to use in all my games. Yeah. So I'll draw from there.
You should just go find the soundtrack. You're running it off air. You don't get in trouble for running it. Like if I did that on air, I'd be trying to license every piece of music. It's fucking nightmare. I did find a company that makes knockoff versions of almost every movie soundtrack, which is huge. I agree. So Dean in chat said music is always huge with me. I 100% agree. I love music, maybe even more while I'm prepping than while I'm running. Because when you're running a game, it's weird. Like, I like ambient music in the background, but like for the theme song, you can't run that thing the whole time.
Yeah.
It would be weird to hear Cujo on fucking repeat.
I think for horror games, music, just the ambient sound in the background is even more important than, say, a traditional RPG. Yeah. Because you're trying to build, you're trying to build a mood. You're trying to the music helps you with your pacing. It helps you. It helps. It allows you to let the players know, okay, this is we're going into serious. This is a serious time, and music helps with that. So
yeah,
100%. Music plays an important role in especially playing online plays an important role in horror games. Period.
Do you so you run primarily Cypher now?
Pretty much. I mean, I play pretty much anything.
Are there other systems in the past that you used to run for it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm polygamous. You know that I play anything, but right now since we're Cypher system, we're Cypher Unlimited. The majority of our gameplay just with adulting,
right.
90% of our gameplay is Cypher system right now. But I play all sorts of things. I'm absolutely in love with Free League's Alien at the moment.
So good. They're coming out with Romulus, which I'm really excited about. I don't know if did you go see Romulus yet?
Yeah, I saw Romulus. Yeah.
I thought it was great because it was made by the same people who did the recent Evil Dead, and the recent Evil Dead was wild. So I was super excited about that. Did you screen grab anything for your Cujo game? Because a lot of times when I'm running horror games, I will get like iconic moments, and then I also like going and finding, for those who run horror games, go look up set pieces from the movie that you're running, and you can find really good set piece scenes so you can show off, like, this is, like, for example, if you're running Pet Cemetery, the cemetery scene, just go find stills from the movie that show those. And the best thing I did, we were all in, this was old school, I was running D20 Modern, and I was running a game that used, what's the name of the horror movie with the car that keeps coming back to life?
Christine?
Yeah. I did that, but using a black avalanche, chasing them through, because they were everywhere in the early 2000s. And I really loved the idea of being able to show images off. So I would just text them the images before our game each session of cars chasing people, or black. I just was looking up black avalanche car accidents and just sending them to them. Dude, they still to this day freak out when they see any black avalanche on the street. Like, today, still. That was almost 20 years ago now. But having those pictures to send makes a big difference.
It's actually horror is such a diverse genre.
Yeah.
There's so many subgenres within horror, right?
Yes.
You have creepy kid, you have body horror, you have suspense, you have slasher, you have zombies, right? So even imagery is important in all those, right? So you have to decide before, first and foremost, what kind of horror game you're running. Yeah. Is it horror as in blood and gore is what you're going for, or is subtle jump scares, if that's what you're going for? Because those are all different things and they don't necessarily always mesh. Are you putting comedy in your horror? Yeah. Because I feel like comedy works extremely well in horror because you lighten the mood for a few seconds. You have all your players' guards down, and then bam, you hit them with another jump scare or something to snap them back into okay, we're getting scared again.
Yeah, 100%. I even put Cujo on screen for you. There's so many. I think there's a remake of it too.
Yeah, the remake was horrible.
Did they use a Saint Bernard? What the hell?
Yeah,
it looks like a Saint Bernard, right?
Yeah, Cujo is a Saint Bernard. Yeah,
that dog. While the kindest, that's the last one I would ever want to have. It's chasing me down is a fucking Saint Bernard.
It's a Saint Bernard with rabies, which makes it even worse.
I know. So I was super excited that we were going to talk this today. So let's dive into the GM half to start, and then we'll move into the player half, because I think the player half is the one that a lot of people don't think about. So I think for me in horror, there's a lot of things you can do to be a better GM. I put a couple bullet points for us, but the biggest one that I find a lot of GMs miss, and I'm gonna I'm going to harken back to some Joss Whedon here, is levity. Having any form of relief from the suspense and tension of horror in your game helps. But you have to be able to control it. Like, it's a dial. Like, if you just leave it pegged at, like, 10 the whole time for comedy, it's no longer really a horror movie. Especially if you're running something like Aliens, for example. There are punchlines in that game, puns or punchlines that make levity. Not actually a lot of comedic moments, but the knife scene with Bishop is a classic of like tension, but somehow still comedy. And as a GM, when you're talking to your players at the beginning of the game, I think you have to kind of set your ground rules. Like, we all know about Session 0. We're not talking about that. This is different. When you're running horror, there's like session horror. Like, you need to have, like you mentioned earlier, what kind of horror are we running? Is it a comedy? Is it Cabin in the Woods? Or is it straight up just suspense? Is it Seven the entire time, where comedy is, you know, just because you have a library card doesn't make you fucking Yoda? Is it that kind of comedy where it's just little punch pieces in it? Because you got to set your players there so they can be in the right headspace. Because I'll tell you what, if you don't do that, you're going to get pissed off as a GM really fast, and it's going to be your fault for not telling them the kind of horror that you're running. Do you have anything that you look to when you're getting ready to talk to players and set the tone as a GM?
I always give expectations. I give expectations twofold. One, from the GM's perspective, hey, look, this is what I expect from the players. I expect buy-in. If you don't have buy-in from your players from the very beginning, like, hey, we're running a horror game, there's going to be blood, there's going to be, you know, there's going to be possibility of character death.
Yep.
You know, if the players are not on board at the very beginning, you run into complications during the game, and nobody wants that, right? So you have to give them your expectations from the very beginning. Hey, look, you know, if a character dies, don't worry. That doesn't mean that it's the end of the game for you. If we're running pre-gens, I'll provide another pre-gen for you to immediately jump into the action. Yeah. But just having that discussion. Also, I know we're not talking about Session 0, but, you know, like, X cards and triggering effects are real, right?
Sure.
So, you know, if you have those discussions at the very beginning and saying, hey, look, this is exactly what's in my game, without revealing the story, you can reveal there's going to be body horror, you know, there's going to be curse words, there's going to be blatant gore. If you have a problem with this, let's speak now or forever hold your peace. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And not every, I think a mistake a lot of new GMs make when running horror is that they have a vision, right? They have a vision for whatever game they want to run, right?
Right.
And they allow the players to change their vision because the players do not want to participate in a certain aspect of their game. It's okay as a GM to say, hey, this isn't the game for you. We're running zombies. Bodies are getting torn apart. If that's not what you're into, I'm not going to change what my vision is so to satisfy one individual player.
Man, I'm pulling up something. We're going to get, so people know I'm pretty spicy on this channel in general. And I don't disagree with Session Zeros. What I think the first step is before you even have a Session 0 is a GM. That's GM to player. That's like the community. Pick the right fucking people for your table. And I put you guys can see what's on screen. I'll let that speak for itself. It doesn't have to be monogamous. You can have numerous people to play with. You can go to new cons and play with different people. You can have a table that loves horror at your house, another table that loves playing Smurfs. But you should know at least your friends that you run well enough to bring the people at the table who like body horror. There are some people who don't like body horror. If I ran the thing, they'd be pissed. I know that up front, and I let them know, hey, there's a body horror. Sit this one out. It's going to be 3 sessions. Yeah. I'll call you for the next one. But it's okay not to run your people all the time that you always run. There is a caveat to that. I know if you live in the middle of nowhere or you only have one group of people that you run horror games for that you can't run certain things with them. I'm going to tell you of a miracle that was invented. It's called the internet. And there are tons of people you can go play with. What do you have, 8,000 people on your Discord right now? Like, if you want to go play something, you'll find the right people. So while session 0 is important, I think finding the right group is more important out of the gate than anything else when you're running horror. Because, God, man, if you're going to run suspense and you have a pun master flex in the corner that is just popping jokes the whole time, you're going to lose your momentum of what you wanted to begin with. You can't have that.
And, you know, it's never personal, right?
No,
I think people take it the wrong way. It's never personal. If I sign up, say you post a game and I sign up, you sign up for whatever game you're running, and then I hear your pitch and I'll be like, you know what? This doesn't sound for me. I'm not getting offended.
Yeah.
That this is the game you're running, and I wouldn't expect you to get offended if I'm bowing out. It's okay. We'll game again on another day. And it's like what you said, especially with horror, right? You want everyone on the same page. Horror, most importantly, you need the buy-in and commitment from the entire table to provide the atmosphere that you're going for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you don't have that buy-in, even if it's just one person, they'll spoil it for the entire table.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and so I brought up the book from Sean K. Reynolds and Monty Cook Games because I think it's actually a really good kind of book on running horror. I think there's a few others out there, but I feel that they are, I can't believe I'm going to say this word, they're very sensitive to the concept of running horror. And MCG is known for making sure you're not stepping on toes from not asking questions. But they talk about growing up with horror, and I will say growing up in the 80s, the horror we grew up with is very different than now. And the big turning point in horror, it's true, but it was Blair Witch for a lot of things that changed how we saw like real life horror. And for me, I think the biggest turning point was Event Horizon. Seeing Event Horizon for horror. Like I saw Hellraiser, I saw that stuff growing up early in the thing, but there was something about Event Horizon that was just fucked up. Like they combine everything together. Spoiler alert, the main guy is the worst mathematician of all time because he's sending him directly to fucking hell, but he didn't know that. So those moments kind of changed things. And I think growing up with horror was different. And then in the 90s, there was some good horror. In 2000s, we stepped into a totally different style of horror with things like Saw coming out and that kind of like torture porn, as everyone calls it. So it became really different because they became things that would actually be able to happen to you. And I think that session 0 became a little more important, or like that conversation about it's okay if you don't want to play. I'm not upset. You shouldn't be upset. You're just making it good for you and I'm making it good for me, and we're good at the end of the day. So I think that's super important. The next one is, I think finding a system that enhances your story is important. It should either be what you're comfortable running, like for yourself, obviously you run Cypher. For me, it's finding mechanics that enhance set pieces that I want to run. Like, I don't think I could run Aliens in any other system other than Free League. Not after playing it. That stress mechanic hits so hard, and it's such a part of the mechanic that it causes just a little bit of tension and stress in the person playing. Alien, what was the other one called? Connections. When I ran those on Norse Foundry, she told me she'd never play Aliens again. It was too stressful. Like, that's because of the mechanic more than anything else. It's a lot of choices that you have to make. Like, is gaining this stress worth the dilemma of possibly going catatonic? So I think finding a system is important. When you're running Cypher, is there certain mechanics that you go pull when you're running different kinds of horror? Like, are there things that you would recommend?
Yes, Stay Alive. First of all, Stay Alive isn't necessarily it, even though it does have a setting, it has a great vampire setting in it. It's more of a toolkit book on how to run horror. So Sean did a phenomenal job of giving you a bunch of different optional mechanics that allow you to do whatever style of horror you want. And one of my favorites is Poor Choices. It's essentially forcing the players to make bad decisions that would happen in a B horror movie. You know, like
Wait,
you always
what is that in?
Stay Alive. It's called Poor Choices.
I'm gonna look it up.
where you force the player to make a bad decision like you would in a horror movie. And everyone sees the horror movie where the person is running from the slasher killer, and they're like, hey, let me run in this abandoned house and hide in here in the middle of nowhere. So, it's stuff like that. Of course, there's horror mode. Horror mode is every time the player rolls a 1 and it escalates as that, it allows the GM to get a GM intrusion. And anyone that plays the Cypher system, a GM intrusion it allows the GM to change the narrative slightly. Okay. So the more bad stuff, the more 1s get rolled, and then on the next one it'll be a 1 or a 2, or a 1, 2, or 3. It allows the GM to ramp up the tension by adding something to the narrative. There's a ton of there's over 20 different optional rules in Stay Alive that touch different aspects of horror, and like with all the other, like Cypher system as a whole, it's plug and play, so you don't have to use all the optional rules. You can use as many or as little as you want.
Well, I will say, I think that kind of momentum one where the GM intrusions on 1 round, 2 next round, 3 next round. When I was running my Soulpunk Victorian horror setting back in the day in Cypher, like testing it, that's the mechanic. It wasn't GM intrusions that I stole.
Yeah.
That escalation of bad things happening even through success, I brought that to every game app. Just like I brought clocks from Forge in the Dark and Apocalypse World. I brought that escalation mechanic in because it does 2 things if you do it right. It drives your players to move forward, to solve whatever's causing that horror-esque element. And then 2, it's letting them know that failure becomes, not failure, but the horror becomes more as they continue into the scene. So like I did a whole haunted house piece, and I think we got up to 7. When I was running Cypher. And they're like, wait, you're telling me on a 7, something horrific happens, even if we succeed? I was like, yep, absolutely. They're like, we got to figure out what the fuck is causing this, or we're going to die. I'm like, well, I never said you were going to die. I just said it was bad. And then it drove me forward.
I ran a zombie game where it got up to 10.
Oh, so Jesus Christ.
So essentially half your rolls was something bad being added to being added to the story.
Yeah.
Which really, it forced the players to want to avoid rolling at all costs, because it was like, hey, I'll take my chances running opposed to rolling for something, because if I roll, something bad or worse is going to happen. Yeah, right? 100%. But you creating tension outside of the story. The players are now going to create the tension with their own roles.
Well, so there has been the running gag of the Frankhouse dilemma for a really long time in my games. And it came from the fact that I know that forcing a choice on a player causes emotion, like actual emotion for that player. And I know within the first 5 to 10 minutes with basic questions that I ask, without like them knowing, I'm just prodding and figuring things out. But just through asking some questions on like how they want to handle certain situations, I can get a read on if they're going to be someone who leans into dilemmas or leans away. And I know which way to weigh those dilemmas of what I'm doing. I think the Devil's Bargain from Forge in the Dark is a really good example of like mechanical player agency that causes tension, where it's like, do you want this bonus die? Something bad is going to happen. It may not be to you, but something in this scene or maybe this scene won't be good. Do you want this extra die to make sure that you succeed in what you're doing? Man,
that's a freaking great point. You know what I find creates more tension than anything? Not directly affecting the character, but affecting others around them, creates more tension and suspense for the player that isn't involved than it is for the player that is involved. Like if you really want to threaten the NPC in the party, threaten the pet, or
threaten the NPC to the left of the player, like something near them. Yeah, 100%.
and it creates way more tension for the players than it does directly doing something to directly affect them. There's nothing like a death scene from a character that's beloved but isn't in the party to create that tension.
Yep. So the other mechanic before we move on to the next section, which is kind of helping players lean in, I think one of the most, I would say the strongest tension builder outside of Aliens is Dread.
Yeah.
Dread, if no one's ever played this game, is a game that uses a Jenga tower. I recommend getting a big Jenga tower. The physical, imposing feeling of that like monolithic structure means a lot. And if you've never played Dread, I can summarize it really quick. Every time you want to take an action, you have to pull a block from the tower.
And I freaking suck at Jenga.
Yeah, it could be pulling a block with to open a door, to search a dresser, to run away. Sometimes really bad decisions take 2 blocks you have to pull. And if the tower tumbles while you're doing it, you fucking die. And then your players around you rebuild the blocks. There was a really good one done from Ivan, is it what's his name? Ivan Van
Norman?
Norman, yeah. He did one where they're on a campfire and he carved the blocks out and put like notes in them and stuff like that. I took note with that. And if you ever pulled a ghost block when you died, you came back as a ghost. So if you saw the tower falling once per session, you could go up and try to save the tower as a ghost from falling by fixing it. And if it still fell, whoever was fucking with it would die. But you could like try to fix the actual blocks themselves as a ghost. And it was cool because some people like yourself are horrible at Jenga. They're the first to die. Trip your friend. But those build tension. Which brings
10 Candles is another one.
Yeah, 10 Candles is a great one. I'm definitely going to talk about that later in another part. But for players, let's talk player side. You and I GM primarily, right? And I know what I want from players, and I think the number one thing is I don't like taking agency away in a horror game. I do believe that putting the Frankhouse dilemma in front of them as they're doing this, and the depths of the ramifications of their actions in front of them actually builds better tension than just saying you die. Because anytime they can make a decision, they have a better chance of making a decision, and they're not going to feel as bad when something bad happens because they made that decision. But what I don't want is players to go run and hide in the corner and run from horror the entire time. Back in the beginning, we talked about telling the players what type of horror we're running. If I'm not running Scooby-Doo, don't act like Scooby-Doo. If I say I'm running 7, do your homework in as a player and watch 7. Get an idea of the setting. We put a lot of work into running games. For you to clip through some parts of 7 for 15 minutes instead of scrolling TikTok, not that fucking hard. It's just not that fucking hard. Just do it. Because you're going to have a better time knowing the IP than me having to regurgitate the intellectual property to you. Me regurgitating Aliens to you when we're playing Aliens, it's not going to be fun. Just go watch it.
I don't necessarily have a problem with players playing the scaredy cat runner character.
Game.
What I do have a problem with
investigation horror. That is the last thing you're going to want.
What I do have a problem with is I have a problem with the person that wants to game the system, if that makes any sense.
Game the horror system, like just stab Jason.
No, the min-max aspect of role-playing games, because there really isn't a place for that in a horror game, to be honest.
No, not as much as others.
I would prefer the character that wants to avoid danger at all costs and run, because I could complicate that situation, right?
Sure.
But if you have the player that goes, hey, I'm gonna do everything possible to eliminate this threat as fast as I can by, using this combination of skills and abilities to avoid the situation, that's more of an issue to me, right?
Yeah. I don't know, man. When I'm running, for example, if I'm running Cthulhu and all my players are trying to do is run away from the library instead of learning stuff, or running away from the clues that are given to them to solve things. Like, if you're going to keep doing that, that's not the game we set out to play together. If I'm running Arkham fucking Horror, your job is to play Arkham fucking Horror, not run away from the horror. You're supposed to embrace the insanity, embrace the things that are going on. Now, if I'm running a slasher movie, totally different. You're like, I'm gonna play the scaredy cat. I'm gonna run from everything, probably get killed by myself. Totally fine. I totally get that. But I don't think that running scaredy cat is the answer in all horror movies. And again, it depends on the style. It does happen. If you play The Thing and you run out into the snow, I'm gonna hand you a new fucking character. You're dead. Like, I'll tell you, if you go outside in the snow, you're there too long, you're gonna die. Like, you're stuck in the confine. I'm gonna hide in the closet. You can hide in the closet. And I come to you, and every time I do, I'm gonna put a spotlight on you and go, so what are you doing in the closet right now? Oh, I'm scared, I'm shaking. And then you gotta ask that player eventually, like, is this fun for you, just hiding in the closet? Wouldn't you rather be looking for a way out? Like, if you're actually scared, shouldn't the solution be, let's find an exit. Let's find a way out of this. If you're just gonna hide in a closet, that's an NPC. You're now an NPC.
But like every great horror movie, the scaredy cat, the horror, no matter how hard they run, or you know, no matter all the effort they put into avoiding something, it just leads you directly to the big bad anyway. So yeah. I just lean into that. I lean into that trope. You're hiding in the closet. Well, guess what? The big bad, Jason's waiting for you in the closet.
Cryptic in a chat said it the best. He's like, yeah, there's contact in play. 100%. You have to interact with the content that I'm giving you. Interact. That buy-in.
Yeah.
There's buy-in. Skin in the game, baby. You gotta have skin in the game. So as a player, have skin in the game for a horror one. Another piece on here, I think, investigation, be curious. If it's a monster hunt, be the fearless person if you're the hunter, or be the supportive person. Play the role. Really play your role. And then I think the hardest one for people is the psychological horror. Think outside the box in psychological horror and dive into the mental fuckery. Like, you gotta be a part of it. If you're not, that kind of horror doesn't work. Like, I really want to run Mandy. I really think I could run a crazy version of Mandy in that IP. And I would run it as 2 movies, because if you've seen Mandy, it's 2 movies. The first part's like a psychedelical kidnap thriller, and the second one is just a slasher movie, except the slasher's your hero. Like, it's fucking wild. So I think I would run something like that, and I would run it in 2 set pieces. Like, maybe I would give them the one side of their character sheet, and the second side would be their character after the turn of events, something like that. But I think pre-gens are really the answer to all horror games.
Oh, absolutely. Pre-gens, I want to touch back on one other thing. Sure. Another thing I expect from the players is not only the buy-in to the character, but be descriptive when you describe what your character does. Right? Because
that's in all gaming.
Yeah. But especially for horror, right? Because descriptions matter in horror more than any other game, right? Not only is the GM being descriptive to set the tone and, you know, and to build pacing, right? When the player describes, hey, I'm running through this and adding stuff to the scene, you're actually helping the GM, because the GM is going to figure out by your descriptions what's important to you and what can I take away from you to increase intention by your descriptions.
I mean, 50% of our job is reading the player.
Yeah. And so, but in a horror game, it's even more important, because you trying to read the player to find out what's going to scare them, what makes their character tick. So be descriptive when you're describing anything.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the last thing I'm going to add I expect from players is embrace character death. Not only your death, your character, embrace the fact that, hey, I might die in this, but embrace your other player's character's death.
Yes.
When another player character dies, change the tone and feel of your character. Because like in real life, if your best friend died or your partner died, it's going to change your whole mental state.
Yeah.
Even though you guys are in a serious situation, you might lose a little mentally by seeing a death of a friend. So change the mood and tone of your character's personality. And like, you'll be surprised if everyone is doing that, the whole tone of the game is going to change.
I think I agree with all of that, first off. And I also believe that, yeah, show me on the description of the story where he touched you. Thanks, Scripting. I do think that there is something that is missing from books that teach you how to run horror. And I think it's on the player side. Everything is always for the GM and how to run it. And I think the idea, this is one thing from acting that I think should come over to roleplay. I don't think everyone needs to be doing a voice, role-playing that out, being really in it. But you've all been sad in your life or scared in your life to a point. We've all watched movies. You can always relate to a character. I tell people who are going to be playing in a horror movie to find a horror movie character they enjoy and embody their reactions. War movies, too, are really good for this. But like you said, if your friend dies in a scene, you may get shell-shocked in that scene, or it might be when that scene ends. And like in Cypher terms, you're having that recovery moment, that 10 minutes to get your hit points back. That might be the moment where you're having like a flashback. Or if you're running Blades in the Dark, maybe an actual flashback scene. So like, pick moments. The things I think players use the least amount that they should, while you're listening to the story, the best players know what they're going to get ready to do by also thinking about how they're going to react to the things that are happening around them. Initiative isn't go, wait. It's go, listen. And everyone takes it as, oh, it's not my turn. I'm just going to sit there and do nothing. You should be taking notes so that when it comes to your turn, you can interact in this story that we're developing together, not playing fucking Candy Crush. If you play a phone game at my fucking table, I swear to God, I will boot you in a heartbeat. Now, if it's beer and pretzels and we're playing a miniature game, I don't give a shit. But if we're telling a story together for a couple hours, if you're playing a phone game, oh man, I may throw hands over that. Like, fuck you.
I want to ask you, what freaking scares you personally? Because I find what scares me is what I tend to add into my games. Like me personally, I think little kids are freaking scary. Yes. Like, there's nothing scarier than the emotionless, blank-eye stare of a child.
I don't have them for a reason.
Yeah. So I tend to add, scary children into my stories because it scares me.
So I'm a little jaded. I was a bodyguard for 13 years. And things that scare me are things that are harder to do at a table. But there are ways to do it, like being alone in isolation. That's something I don't like a lot. I always am usually either entertained by watching something, but sitting by yourself. Like, I hated meditation for the longest time because it was one of those things where you're just alone with yourself. I'm not a big fan of it. I used to have a big fear of needles growing up, so I put those in games a lot. I don't anymore. I had to give myself shots after an injury, so that changed. And then the worst to me, though, I will cringe to the end of time. I have seen numerous amounts of bodily injury in my life. Watching someone twist their ankle makes me cringe every fucking time. I will cringe no matter what. Like, I have to really suck it up not to cringe because I'm flat-footed and I have blown my ankles out so many times. Tiffany says, paying bills scare the crap out of me. Put that in a horror game. I will never forget you said that. I ran you in games. Be ready. Be ready for an infinite checkbook and Beetlejuice. It's going to be horrible. But yeah, so like those are all really good things. I mean, I think
it's funny how you say isolation, because that's another thing that that's a GM's tool is I know players are traditionally told, hey, don't split the party. It makes it difficult for the GM.
Always.
In horror games, splitting the party helps the GM.
Split that party every fucking time. Always.
It might not be good for the player in the story, but for the GM, it's a lot easier to create tension for 1 or 2 people than it is for 4 people. So take every opportunity you can as a GM to get the players either on solo scenes or splitting them up where they have to meet back together at some point in the game and create that tension where there's always an obstacle in their way for them to get back together.
It's so important to me that players understand in my games, I don't care if you split the party. I love running split parties in all adventure types. I will always scale the threat to the players to a point, but if you get to an area where, like, if you're doing fantasy and it's a dragon in the other room, I would make sure that you're aware of what the fuck you're stepping into. If you step into an area, I'm like, if we're doing horror, if you're walking to an area, you go down the basement, it suddenly gets cold. There's an abundance of bat guano on the floor. And at the bottom of the stairwells, you see a door that is partially open to a coffin. I'm letting you know, going in there by yourself is fucking dead. It's a vampire coffin. Yeah. You fucking know what it is. If you go on your own, that's on you, fam. Like, that's not on me. So I think, like, to me, GM-wise, do your due diligence. Like, to kind of recapsulate all this, do your due diligence, do your homework on your movie, pick some scenes that are important to you, which we'll get into later in the show. Or actually, for the one watching the recording in the third one. And then I think that for your players, engage, listen to what's going on, play your role in the game, whatever type of horror game that's being ran. I think that most important, that whole idea of what they said in chat said it, contact. Like, you have to touch to be in contact with the game. And then learn the system that you're playing in if you can. If it's a convention, games are different. That's different. GMs take on a lot more work in a convention game than any player will ever understand. Because we have to teach you, educate you in a short manner of time, make it fun, skip rules, and so on. If you are the know-it-all at a convention, instead of being a prick about it, just help the people left and right if you already know the fucking game. It's not rocket science. It really fucking isn't. If you can't figure that out, you need to have some solo time. But, like, literally, help the people left and right. Help your GM out, because con games are hard. But for big games, read the book, understand the rules to the best of your ability, and take in some of the intellectual property we're going to run, or if a GM gives reference material, listen and watch some of that. Don't just go, I forgot. Like, make it part of your fucking TikTok scrolling. Look up horror on that movie. If you need short bites because you can't watch a movie, look up bites on that. Is there any closing statements for you before I wrap this and then go into the next segment?
No, as a GM, embrace the madness and don't be scared to kill your players. And as a player, don't be scared to be scared, because that's what we both want. I don't play a horror game not to be scared. So as a player, if you're playing in a horror game, expect to be scared and embrace that fact, because it's going to make it not only more fun for you, it's going to make it more fun for everyone else involved.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that wholeheartedly. All right, so I'm going to cut to me here. Everybody, thank you. If you're watching this live, stick around. We got more. But for those of you that are watching the recording, thank you for joining EFP Live. If you haven't clicked the subscribe below, you know how to do this. It's a button. You click it. There's a bell. Pound it like Jason kills his victims. Whatever it is you need to do. And then on these two sides, there's going to be probably videos to watch for you. But thank you for joining us. And then stay tuned. The second segment will be up right away for those that are here. For all of you that are watching this in a recording later on. And like always, watch, listen, learn, be a better gamer, go play some fucking horror. So I'm gonna stop that recording and we'll do our next one. If you gotta take a piss or anything, now's your time. All right, and then we'll go right into the next one. It's like cheating. We use this as a green room and just shoot the shit. Live gets to chill with us. It's like behind the screen. And then we just record stuff separately. And all I gotta do is, it cuts my editing time down so much, dude, I can't even tell you. I used to sit and record, but I can one take almost anything. maybe 2 if I really need to. It's so much easier. So we cut that down. We'll get like a 30-minute video out of it. And then I got some shorts that'll come out. But for the audience, great fucking comments in the audience today. Hey, gang, let's split up moments later. NPC death set. Yeah, I mean, look, it sets the atmosphere. I agree, RPGA. Someone earlier was in one of my games. I think it was Serving Hands. Yeah, like when the entire party would run full speed ahead and leave me behind in the darkest house. Super fun. That happened to her, I think 2 or 3 times. They did the auction game for her darkest house. I ran it, and it was wild. We got to the outside. Have you played Darkest House yet?
Yeah, of course.
They got out into the alcove outside, that first area outside. They're like, oh, we can escape. And they ran out onto the grass. Someone was playing a goblin with, it was 88 riddles, and he had a slingshot with math rocks in him. He didn't. He got picked into the sky. I still have never finished The Darkest House. I don't know if you ever played it completion. I haven't. I've only ever fucked with people. I've
played it like 5 or 6 times, and I've never completed it once. It's actually a lot longer than what people give it credit for.
It's 7-8 sessions if you really are playing it.
Yeah, and Darkest Forest is Darkest Forest is on its way.
Hey, before we go into our live show, should we tell everybody what's on the fucking website right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Magnus Archives is available right now on Monty Cook Games store. So if you haven't backed it, you should be getting the coupon. If you backed it on the backer kit, you should have the coupon in your box. So go claim that. Darkest Forest will be kickstarted shortly, which is a continuation of the Darkest House, another complete all-in-one act that you can run it either with Cypher System or it's compatible with any role-playing game. So definitely check out Darkest Forest, and if you haven't, check out Darkest House, because that's a phenomenal horror game.
Dude, I'm so excited for the Magnus Archives. I would explain it as, what do you say, X-Files meets what? How would you... It's X-Files meets Cthulhu?
Yeah, Cthulhu horror meets the X-Files, meets 1980s style Twilight Zone.
This might be the game that brings me back to run a bunch of fucking MCG.
Yeah. Well, GameOCon, they're going to be running the crap out of it. So
Charles is running me in the game with a couple of friends, so that's going to be super fun. Charles and I haven't got to play a game together, so this is going to be fucking entertaining. But anyway... So our next section we're going to get into here for everybody, we're going to talk favorite horror movies. I think it's going to be pretty short, but it'll be a nice like 10-15 minute piece that we can get out. I have a top 10. Do you have a top 10 ready?
I could definitely make you a top 10. I know I have a top 3 for sure. My 3 favorite horror movies of all time.
So caveat, you got to tell me what system you would use to run them. If you say Cypher for all of them, I'm going to fly out to New York.
Okay.
And if you do say Cypher, you better give me a rule that you would use that makes that IP work. All right?
All right. So,
now hold on here. I'm going to set up the recording. I got to do the same thing as last time. All right, everybody, we're going to do the recording again. You guys know the routine. Look, adventures in horror. Let me start the recording. And then let me pick the beginning of the song. So 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, we're back with more horror stuff. Today we're going to be talking our top 10 horror movies and how you can run them in tabletop RPGs. Maybe some player notes, maybe some more GM notes, but most importantly, what system and rules we would use to make that intellectual property sing. From now on, I'm saying IP because intellectual property is too long of a fucking word to be using on YouTube. If you can't figure out what IP is, you probably also don't know what LOL is or anything else under the sun, and I judge you. Casually. Maybe not casually. Maybe seriously. I judge you seriously. But anyway, let's bring my buddy from Cypher Unlimited on, Anthony, or Spigs18, for those who know him from the Discord. I have up our lovely Same Stay Alive, but I'm going to switch us over here. And I'm going to pull up the fun interwebs so that we can have up some stuff we need to look at movies and all. So we're going to be talking top 10s. I'm not doing mine in any order. We can say our top 3 afterwards. But I'm going to start with Jason X. I know the Jason franchise inside and out. I'm a big fan of Friday the 13th, but there's something about Jason X that just sang for me that other ones didn't. If all of you remember DVDs back in the day, it was the first DVD to jump cut to death scenes. It had an entire section that you could clip through and just watch Jason murder every single person. We all want that. It was like TikTok before TikTok was around. If I was to run it, I would use Dread. I think every slasher movie should use Dread, or possibly Mork Borg.
Oh.
I think a slasher version of Mork Borg would be a lot of fun. I'm not saying maybe I'm doing something in that genre as a micro setting that's a scene, but maybe. What do you got? What's your first horror movie choice?
I'm going zombies, and I know zombies has been done a million times, but I'm going with the classic. If you've never seen this fucking movie and you can call yourself a zombie fan, I'm going with George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. And I know you were expecting me to say Cypher System, but
I was.
I am going to go with a book.
It better be Free League then, baby.
Infected.
So what is Infected? I don't know. I know that's Free League, right?
It's made by Emergent RPG.
Oh.
And it's a futuristic zombie setting, but the rules, the way it handles zombie infection is ingenious in this system. It allows you to be a partial zombie, and still go on, as a character until you fully turn over. This is an extremely underrated horror game, and I picked this up at Gen Con like 4 years ago, and I read it. Yeah, it's a fantastic RPG. If you haven't had a chance, check it out. It's called Infected. So if I was, of course, I would most likely try in Cypher System, and I have run zombies in Cypher System before, but if I was going to run Dawn of the Dead, I would use Infected.
I'll tell you what, if you have not played Walking Dead yet, the zombie mechanics Free League made for Walking Dead, just as a zombie core game, stellar. The first time someone gets mobbed, your brain goes, oh no, this is going to be really bad. And the entire game shifts the first time you get a mob of zombies. I'm a big fan of that. I do love Dawn of the Dead. I mean, it's based in Wisconsin, so I was gonna say it, but I didn't.
And as a Boricua, George Romero, the most famous Puerto Rican director of all time. So
I'm gonna say my next one is Nightmare on Elm Street, but specifically 4.
Ooh.
4. I think
what's that? Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors is the best one. I loved the concept of it. I thought the Dream Warriors thing was great. I just watched 5 the other day. I forgot that 5 was actually a follow-up, a continuation of 4, where he hunts down the warriors and kills them all. Well, almost. But I love that movie. I think it was like the perfect mashup of his quirky, funny, grotesque humor. And while 1 is good, 1 is just about him being a pedo. Like, I don't care. Like, they drop that after a while. They're like, yeah, he's a pedo. Everyone's going to be into it. And they're like, oh, I guess that was a bad choice. You know what? He's just a murderer. Yeah, number 2, he's just a... They dropped all of it. And I think they should have kept it that way. I think they could have done something with him being like a nightmare king in the beginning, and that kids' nightmares were the most powerful. Woo! And I think they could have got away with that. They didn't. They went with pedo. But in this one, he's back as the Nightmare King. I think it's probably my favorite. If I ran it, I would do Everyday Heroes.
Oh.
It's modern. It's easy to make a character. And something that's cool about Everyday Heroes is your classes you pick, or what they're called, I think it's occupations. The archetypes are the stats. So I'm a strong hero. You're already setting the tone for how you're going to play your character. 100% would run it that way. Super easy. People know 5e. Hit points are low. What do you got for your next one?
I'm going classics. I'm going with the only movie that I could honestly say scared the shit out of me as a child, and that's The Exorcist. The Exorcist was the most scariest movie I ever seen in my life, hands down. There's nothing close to it, and I'm going 10 candles. I'm going 10.
Ooh.
I'm going 10 candles with The Exorcist. I think it's a match made in heaven. I think that first of all, I think The Exorcist, just to have a group of people playing from the aspect of you're either one person's possessed and everyone is trying to stop them, which is a very interesting. Dread could also work for it if we're going by that aspect, but I think 10 candles is a better fit.
So I would do 10 candles. I have Exorcist on my list as well. I said Dogs in the Vineyard.
Ooh, nice.
Because that is an apocalypse world one where you're playing Mormons in coats going around hunting down demons. But man, 10 candles just gave me an idea. Could you imagine having a bed or a gurney, have a haunt actor strapped to it, playing the Exorcist role, and they just have beats, and your goal is to make sure your candle doesn't go out while she's there doing stuff?
Yeah.
And like if you turned all the lights off and the GM hands her like a squirt bottle to spray out candles.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Like she's vomiting on you. Oh my God, I want to run this at a convention in a small room. People would have to sign a waiver. Like it'd be haunt rules. You can't touch, but I can sure fuck you up. I think I could run that amazing. Maybe the GM would have to be the person on the table.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. The GM's got to be the priest. The GM's got to be the priest leaning it, and then a haunt actor has to play the person in the middle of the room. You would never have to leave the room. You could just have like a room set up with like objects and things. Fuck me, that would be amazing. Anthony, I know what I'm doing for my next fucking convention game. I hope you're ready for Gamehole Con 2025.
Yeah, The Exorcist is just a classic fucking movie. Like,
yeah.
It's the only movie that I can honestly say scared the crap. I couldn't sleep.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. So my next one, a lot of people forget about this movie, but I think it is personally this director and artist's best work. And that is Crimson Peak from Del Toro.
Oh.
This is the best representation of ghosts and spirits that I've seen in a movie. They are the creepiest looking motherfuckers ever. Like, have you seen this movie?
Yeah.
Dude, the ghosts in this movie, when they get to look like this, or like this crawling across the ground, one of my favorites. It's super inspirational for my main setting is a horror setting. It's soul punk Victorian horror, and this is one of those, like, in the back of the book, it's going to say, go watch Crimson Peak. If I ran Crimson Peak, I would do Forge in the Dark, and I put 10 Candles as an option as well. But I think Forge in the Dark's idea of 3 levels of challenge, the what is it? It's controlled, risky, and desperate, nails how bad scenes can be just by putting people in that position. Hands down, one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it's very underappreciated. Like, this makeup work is just godlike. This hollowed head, so good. So good. So that's my third. I guess my fourth year did, which is Exorcist in there. What's your third?
All right, my third is Children of the Corn.
Buddy, we're on the same thing.
And I ran Children of the Corn using the Cypher system, specifically Stay Alive. I think Children of the Corn, I'm sorry, is tailor-made for GM Intrusions.
It is.
I already told you guys earlier, children freak the crap out of me. So the whole concept of these, little kids that are take over an entire town and kill all the adults is just freaky and scary. And GM Intrusions to level the playing field between adult strength and give the children advantages to create that atmosphere is just a perfect combination. So I'm going Children of the Corn.
Serving Hand says the remake was a riot. Remake was okay for me. Yeah. It wasn't my favorite, but the visuals were really good in it. Children of the Corn, good grab. I'm going to go with something that I don't think will be on your list. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. And I like the whole franchise. They're all garbage. They are all absolutely garbage. And that is the comedy body horror of Critters.
Oh, Critters.
Critters is a wild franchise. If you've never seen it, the little dolls that you can get to buy, I want one of these so bad to be on my desk. They're what Furbies should have fucking been. They are evil Furbies. If you've never seen it, it's amazing. I also realized that Terrence Mann, who plays one of the big heroes in the movie, looks so much like Tim Curry when he's younger. It's fucking wild. I'm using that right now for something I'm running a Gamehole Con. I'm running a horror-based game. If I were to run Critters, though, I would use DCC.
Oh, nice.
I think the gonzo aspect of the dice and the gonzo aspect of spell casting is perfect for things like Critters and Tremors and things along that franchise.
Yeah, that's my next one.
Yeah,
I was going.
I knew it.
Tremors was my next pick, and I was going 5e with Tremors. You do fantasy 5e Tremors. You have the Boule already to be reskinned.
Oh, dude, Tremors is a
Tremors.
classic. Most of that franchise is good. Some of them get real bad. It somehow, from the first one to the later ones, it dipped more into B-flick, maybe even D-flick. Like, it just fucking, it dove in the Tremor hole. It was so bad as it goes through. But Tremors, man, not on my list. It was a fight between Critters and Tremors. And my problem with Tremors is, Tremors are kaiju, essentially. They're large scale. I don't think 5e does it that well.
The reason why I said 5e is because I would have done a Boule version of the Tremor.
Oh, yeah. Man, I don't know. I think that if I were to do it, I would probably use Mork Borg for Tremors or Year Zero engine, because Mutant Year Zero has some really good large-scale stuff. I agree with you, though. And that was tough. Tremors almost made my list, but the franchise dipped so bad I had to cut it. Like, they were almost impossible to watch. There's a Jurassic Park Tremors towards the end that is just fucking painful. Good pick, though. The first one is outstanding. These two guys here, when they're talking about dynamite, is some of the best parts in the movie. But it's 30 years old, bro.
Yeah.
Old movie. Old. Smart play. 5e. Maybe if you use Helga's, the Helga book for the big monsters, that might make it good. So,
all right, my fifth one is Nightbreed. I don't know if you ever remember that movie, Nightbreed.
I 100% know Nightbreed, and I know what game you would pick for this.
I am picking Nightbane by Palladium Games because this is essentially Nightbreed in an RPG form.
Was it inspired for that? Do you know? Was Nightbreed inspired?
I don't think they officially had the IP, but they did a workaround. Yes.
Inspiration. I love Nightbreed. It is such a fucking great movie. Although, you know, a lot of people have not seen this movie.
Oh, no.
No. And what is the name of the game? It's what is it?
Nightbane.
Nightbane. So Todd, who played Everston and is playing Burke on my new show, he loves that Palladium because that's Palladium.
Yes.
That system is
old.
And it is cumbersome,
Old as dirt.
clunky, but it has some of the best random monster tables, like to build your character. I used that when I was doing Kaiju for Warpaint because they were just so inspirational. I love that. I think,
and I'm a sucker for contested roles. I always have been since the day one. Yep. I love having players roll against each other, and Palladium was the king of contested roles.
It was, and it also, I will say, Guyver is also a really good inspiration for the Palladium game. But Nightbreed, if you've not seen Nightbreed, maybe I'll put a list of all the movies down below afterwards. It'll take me a little while to compile where you can watch them legally. But dude, Nightbreed, they put out a Blu-ray. Did you know that?
Oh, no.
Yeah, look at this shit. Boom. Blu-ray came out in 1990 is when the movie came out. They finally put out that Blu-ray as well. Nightbreed is great. Good call. Alpha Dean agrees with you. Says it's one of my favorite movies. Have you seen, what is it? Cabal cut of the movie? No, I have not. Is it good? Link me in Discord what it is. I'll definitely take a look at it. So that's a good 5. My 5, a good shocker here. I don't know a lot of people who will think of this as a horror movie. It also got a TV series that I think shouldn't have gotten canceled because every one that gets canceled is horrible. But that would be good old my boy Keanu Reeves and Constantine.
Oh, nice.
Constantine is one of the best like action horror movies in a long time, and the TV series, the guy who played it for the TV series may even be better than Keanu Reeves.
I have an honorable mention too that I want to add.
Oh, that's at the end. Honorable mentions at the end.
No, but I have a perfect book for it. That's why I want to add.
Oh, well, then write it down and we'll do the... Oh, I have one honorable mention too, so keep it there.
Yeah.
For Constantine, I would do probably DCC because of the wild magic. Because Constantine has some fucking just crazy abilities. And if you've never played DCC, the magic in that game is made to be like... There's only a few spells, but you roll on this huge table when you cast. You really risk it for the biscuit.
If I'm using my cipher head, I would use Gods of the Fall for it.
I think I am still... I know Dean made magic, but I'm waiting for MCG to put out a magic book. I think they need to double down and like really make a magic book, and it better not be fucking Vancy and magic. Because they did the cube has all this different style of magic. Now I want the cipher version of it. But DCC for that would be it. I'm hoping our next one, because neither of us have said it yet, and I'm expecting it's going to be the same. What is your 6?
All right, I'm
also
going
in no specific order, by the way.
I'm going with this isn't necessarily horror. Okay. It's more suspense, but I would add horror elements to it, and I'm going with Deliverance. Ooh. Squeal Like a Pig. And I am going to add...
I didn't even...
Oh, God's Appalachia.
Oh, my God. That would be so good.
The Deliverance experience.
Motherfucking Reynolds, man.
The whole concept of being followed and trapped by these crazy people in West Virginia. And I would add a horror Cthulhu element to it, which I would get from Oh, Gods. I think that's the perfect marriage, and Deliverance is a scary fucking movie.
It is. You know what? I never would have said that would have been a horror movie, but it is a fucked up movie. That's another thing. Like, my family originally is from the South. I grew up in Detroit. It reminds me of California a lot from Quentin Tarantino, if you remember that movie at all.
Yeah.
And there's something creepy about those people who will just do what they want. But my favorite comedian of all time, Chad Daniels, said nothing was worse than when I was driving through the South. I rolled my window up because I heard the sound of banjos, and I thought I was going to die. Banjos are creepy, man. Banjos are creepy music. So that is not the one I was going to say. The one I was going to say for mine coming up for 6, and this is a franchise again, but it's a classic, is Phantasm.
Oh, I love Phantasm. Me and Dean were actually talking about Phantasm the other day. That was on my list of games to do for Halloween.
The gentleman who plays the tall man in here, he unfortunately passed. They did end the franchise with a final movie before he did. And I will say it was a good tie-up for the movie, but Phantasm was a wild movie. Also, one of the most difficult props to be done on a set, because they were spherical and mirrored, they had a hard time not catching the cameras on the mirrored surface. So there's a lot of like beginning of how to shoot spherical mirrored surfaces because of this movie. If I ran Phantasm, I think Phantasm would be hard to run right, because it's actually a bunch of dream fucked up stuff. I said Cypher, because I think artifacts and ciphers are perfect for that set piece, especially subtle ciphers. I think they would do so well running that dreamscape of Phantasm. And it's, if you do like a tier 2 character, they're really fucking easy to kill. So that's my number 6. I have my 7. What is yours? I hope that my 7's on your list somewhere.
All right. I'm going to go Alien, but I'm not going to use Aliens. I'm going to use Mothership.
Oh, why? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Because I wanted to be different, and I wanted to play something different.
I'm going to have to kick you off the show now. I love Mothership. I think Mothership would do a better Event Horizon. which is
Event
my next
Horizon
one.
also, yeah.
My next one is Event Horizon.
I wanted in there, but I didn't want to give you the obvious answer, Alien, because to be honest, if I am running Aliens, I would run Alien. But Mothership has interesting elements that
it does.
I definitely could see doing a Alien version using
or
Mothership.
Death in Space is probably even better than Mothership. It's a derivative of it, but so I do have Event Horizon's coming up for me later, but it's special. I think Aliens, though, I would use Free League. I think Free League's a better choice. I think the stress mechanic's better. But I do agree. Aliens, though, believe it or not, that franchise did not make my list. Because as a kid growing up on the dual VHS, this was the order that it was on HBO or Showtime. I had Aliens. Uh-oh, your camera died on me. You might have to reboot or refresh. Yep. Hit refresh. I would say Aliens, Predator, and Spaceballs was on the same VHS for me. And since they were on the same VHS, with those three movies, I can't see Aliens as anything other than an action horror, but it's action to me. It's not a horror movie. Maybe the first one, but the first one, and I'm going to say it, is one of the worst in the franchise. Yeah, you're good. I hated Alien so much, I cannot rewatch it. It's too slow. It's just boring. I don't enjoy it. I don't think it's a suspense movie. I don't know, man. Like, it didn't hit for me the way Aliens did, and I didn't need the xenomorph. I just needed more in it. But I can't see it as a horror franchise. To me, it's an action horror, maybe. But it's a monster movie. That's all it is to me. So my next one is a horror movie to the furthest extent, and may have the best horror movie remake of all fucking time. And that's Evil Dead.
Oh, that's I was doing Army of Darkness as my next one.
Army of Darkness is a great camp horror. I love the franchise, but I think Evil Dead, like that whole piece is one of his best pieces. But the remake of Evil Dead is one of the best horror movie remakes I've ever seen. I can't think of a remake.
Oh no, there's one that you absolutely missed. The greatest remake horror movie of all time, no comparison, is John Carpenter's. John Carpenter's The Thing. There's no comparison.
Oh, I disagree.
That is the greatest remake of a horror film
disagree with that
ever in the history of film.
No.
John Carpenter's The Thing is probably one of the 10 greatest films of all time.
That I agree with 100%. I did not love the remake.
Honestly, say that the remake of Evil Dead is better than the remake of The Thing?
Oh, 100%. Yes, 100%. Yes. I think that The Thing didn't need a remake. There goes your video again. But boy is fighting over there with his video. I don't think that The Thing needs a remake. The remake was okay. There you go. Now your video's back. But I will say, my amazing neighbor next door, I do have a reliquary piece. I am a Thing fan. And this is from the remake. Are you ready? I got a piece of the Thing's section of the claw, the suit, from it. But I like the remake, but I don't think it was anywhere near as good as the original. And I think Evil Dead's remake is far superior. And I think the remake is better than the original Evil Dead. I like the.
Oh, you are nuts! You are nuts! Yeah. The original Evil Dead is better than the remake.
No, disagree. I love the original Evil Dead, but I think the remake is better. 100% better. The only thing that could have made it better is a young Bruce Campbell.
We totally disagree.
I know, we don't have to agree. You also said Mothership instead of fucking Aliens. Sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes you don't agree with me.
That was a troll move, but the remake of Evil Dead better than the original.
I think it might be. I just watched them back to back earlier this month. I mean, I love.
And Dean's agreeing with me on chat on this one. Maybe it's a CU thing, but he said that remake was crap.
No, he said the remake of The Thing was crap.
The John Carpenter? There's no way how.
Yeah, he just said the remake for The Thing was crap. Yeah.
There's no
See,
way in
like-
hell he said that. You know, the thing is a remake. I'm talking about the what you call it, 1989 version. That's a remake.
OG. Oh, is it really?
Yeah. Yes. The original thing came out in 1957.
Oh, you're right. Oh, I apologize. I agree with that. That is true. I did not remember that there was an old 50s one. I totally forgot about that.
No, the thing is, John Carpenter remade the thing.
That is my bad. As a horror movie fan, I fucking forgot because that first one was absolute garbage.
It was from the 1950s.
That's what I just said.
Yeah,
Absolute
yeah.
garbage. There's nothing from the 50s that's still good today.
Mm.
Maybe some furniture. Some furniture. I thought exactly, Dean. I thought you were talking about the 90s one.
No, I'm talking about the
Yeah,
John Carpenter's
no.
the thing.
Okay, we're all on the same page. I don't have to kill you anymore.
That's the greatest remake of all time. It's not
You
even
are
close.
100.
Wait,
But the
hold on. I
hold
want
on,
to hear
though.
it. Say it
Hold
again.
on, though.
Say it
The
again.
bar
I wanna
was
hear
set
it.
very low.
No.
When you said
I want to hear
1950s.
it.
Nah, get the fuck out of here.
Are you going to say I was right all along?
No, yeah, you're right about that remake. Yeah, I forgot about the original. Anyway,
That's all. All right, show's over, guys.
that remake is
Eric said I was right.
the best remake. But look, dude, I wasn't talking about the 50s, man. You know I
It's a
fucking wasn't.
remake. It was a remake.
But that's every movie then at this point in time, you fucker. Anyway, moving on from that, Evil Dead was my 7. What's yours?
7, I think it was 8.
No, 8. Sorry, 8.
Yeah. What you call it? I was gonna go Army of Darkness with
You
more
can.
Borg.
It's a totally different franchise. Yeah, Army of Darkness showed.
And that's tailor made for Mark Borg. Mark Borg is perfect
yes.
for Army of Darkness.
So Army of Darkness is one of these movies that got comedy and body horror perfect. Like they really nailed it. I think this might be that director's best piece. Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
Like I really, really think that they nailed it. And I think it's when Bruce really found his like comedy style was in that movie. Like he was good in Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. Like we all know that. But something about Army of Darkness, I think he found his stride. And I agree, Mark Borg would be perfect for that shit. So my next one, I guarantee, is not on your list. It is a new movie in the last year. But there is something about single set horror where you're like on one set that is very rare. I mean, short of the Exorcist I want to run, there's not a lot of single set horror things unless you go to like a play or something, you know what I mean? But mine would be Late Night with the Devil. If you have not seen this movie, it is fantastic. It nails the genre, the time frame, the feeling. Late Night with the Devil it's in my top 10 horror movies. I really think it is. The actor is phenomenal in it, and it is subtle possession. But it is a TV show that they're bringing someone out who's possessed, and everything just goes fucking south. This movie is amazing. If I ran it, I would use Forged in the Dark. I think it's the only way I can.
Nice.
Because I think you need the levels of risk. But after you said 10 candles, I think 10 candles around an old movie camera on the table, like an old VHS movie camera on the table, and having everybody in those like square back chairs, you know, like the director's chairs, playing this game would be phenomenal. So that Late Night is my 9. What do you got?
All right, my 9 is Devil's Advocate.
Great movie.
And I am using Stealing Stories from the Devil by Monty Cook Games.
I still haven't played that yet. Why that? I don't know much about that system. How isn't it a card-based heist game? Oh,
Stealing
that's Devil's
Stories.
Dandy Dogs. I'm thinking.
Yeah, Devil's Dandy Dog. Stealing Stories for the Devil is a very improv game, so you could base the actual like the whole storyline through the player's perspective. And I just thought it'd be a really cool way of trying to play the devil's advocate.
Is it kind of like Fiasco?
Yeah, the players build the story out.
I did not see that coming. That's good. Devil's Advocate's a great fucking movie. If people haven't seen it, it's a fucking classic. So I would say after that, I got another one that I know is gonna strike some.
This your last one?
Yeah. Then I got my special one. So this is a newer one, and it just holds a special place in my heart. So there is a YouTuber that I have watched like fight to make it, and he finally got to make a movie, and he made Onyx the Fortuitous. This man just kind of like nailed the 80s nostalgia of like puppetry, horror, and comedy. It's kind of got a Scooby-Doo vibe to it, but it is horror, but it's comedy horror, like Ghostbusters comedy horror. And I'm so proud that this guy finally, I don't know him personally, but like this guy has been on YouTube forever. He's the guy who did the fake Arby's commercial, where he's like, oh, the hole, the hell opened up in front of our place. Onyx and the fedora, that guy, Bowser. If you've seen his vids, the man deserves a spot just because I don't think I've seen someone work as hard as this motherfucker. So hard that when this came out, when there is, I think it's called Bowls or something, they make shoes, they made Onyx the Fortuitous kicks as well. So I don't know, there's just a special place for my heart for this one, but it is not my extra. What's your final?
All right, my final, and I'm going back to Stay Alive because honestly, I think that's the perfect horror game ever assembled. Sean K. Reynolds did an absolute mastermind. And Dan, this is going to be tough because I wanted to put this as my honorable mention, but I am going Rosemary's Baby.
I have a love-hate relationship with that. It's not a bad movie, but it's a bad movie.
I'm going Rosemary's Baby because it's the one psychological horror that I wanted to add to this. It messes with your brain, messes with your mind.
So you mean the remake, right?
No, I'm talking the original.
I know. Another bad remake.
Yeah.
What system did you use?
I'm using Stay Alive.
Stay Alive. So for Onyx Fortuitous, I actually said Stay Alive as well. Mm-hmm. I forgot to mention what I said for that. I agree. I think Stay Alive is good for that. A little bit of WICK in it too. What's the one that Shauna wrote for Cypher with all the psychological trauma stuff?
Oh, We All Mad Here?
Yeah, We All Mad. I think a little bit of We All Mad would do really well for this one that you're talking about.
And hold on, go ahead. I lost my train of thought.
No, your sleeper pick is what I was going to ask.
Yeah, that's why I lost my... Because I didn't write mine down. I only wrote down 3 movies.
So my sleeper pick we already talked about, and that's Event Horizon. I think it changed the horror landscape, especially sci-fi horror. It is one of the movies that in person, I watched someone leave the theater puking. In person, watched it happen. And more than one person left the movie watching it. It is body horror at its fucking finest. If you've never seen this,
that's my. I remember my sleeper pick. Body horror at its finest is Peter Jackson's first movie, Brain Dead.
Oh, I don't know if I know that.
That's Peter Jackson for the Lord of the Rings fame.
I see Dead Alive. Oh yes, I do know this. That is really good body horror.
Yeah,
really good body horror.
That's his very first film. That is one of the most bloodiest films you'll ever see. All I gotta say is that he killed a whole room of zombies with a lawnmower, and they showed every single piece. Every single piece ripped and tore up through a lawnmower.
What do you run that with?
I don't know, but I didn't pick it.
Oh, I know. It is DCC, but it's a funnel. You're all 0-level characters. I love that movie's classic. I forgot about it. The only other thing I would say for horror movies that I would take and run that I think would be a lot of fun, got into TV series, so I cut all that stuff. I was trying to stick straight with movies. But I mean, I think this is one of those things where you kind of pick your favorite horror movies, grab the one you think you can run, and go. There's so many fucking good horror movies out there. Like, just horror movies are great. Dead Meat. If you've never seen the Dead Meat podcast, one of my favorites. It goes over horror movies. Spotify. They do kill counts and stuff like that for them. We've done something similar here watching horror movies when I was on Twitch. But like, yeah, man, we just want to do something fun in the middle here for horror movies, which is going to take us into our last segment before we call it here, which is going to be a short one. But for those who are here, stick around. We have more. We're not done. For those of you who are watching this afterwards, I'll put a link to the movies down below, along with a couple other, maybe a link to the games. I don't know which one. There'll be some stuff in the description. But you know the routine. If you're watching this and this isn't live, you're watching this as recorded, hit the subscribe button, hit it like a lawnmower, chopping up as many zombies as possible. And of course, go follow the CU guys as well at Cypher Unlimited. Their Discord will be down below as well for you to join. If you're looking to play things that are Monty Cook game, that is your source. That is your place. There is nowhere else to be. If you go to any other Discord, you're just fucking lying to yourself. So we'll be back. Fact. We'll be back in just a second as we go into our next one, which is going to be all about how to run these IPs that we've talked about. So let me stop this one, and then we'll do our last one. Last one's going to be running horror movies. I'm excited for this. We should get you out of here on time. It's 6 your time. So if we're done in 30, you're golden, right? All right. So we got 30 minutes to do this one. Running horror movies is an art form, man. I want to look at the audience here for a couple minutes. No, I did not put Hellraiser on there, and there is a reason why. I adore Hellraiser. I think Hellraiser is a great spectacle piece. I think that the first one's good. I think the remake was a masterpiece. I think they crushed it. It didn't make it for one reason and one reason only. I had to fight between that and Jason. And I decided Jason and Freddy deserved it more than Pinhead. Only because more of their movies are good than Hellraiser. Hellraiser has one good movie, one good remake. Everything else in that series is fucking hot garbage. They just could not capture the magic until the remake was done. Like, if you tell me any other of the Hellraisers were really good, you're fucking lying to yourself. The fucking comic was better. So I didn't put it in there because of that, but I will say I'm a huge fan of Hellraiser in the remake. The other ones are just candy corn. Once it's old, you don't really want it. It's just how I feel. Mars Attacks, that's a good one too.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a real good one.
Somebody else said A24. A few pearls in A24. Yeah, if we would have done top 20, Hellraiser would have been 11.
Yeah, I only had a top 3. I had to wing the other 7.
I knew if you had to wing it, you wouldn't say half the shit I said. So, hey, by the way, this was a player who didn't do his homework. I told him last night all this stuff. He had all afternoon, but Magic the Gathering was too important.
You told me at 2:00 in the morning.
You've been up for hours, homie. I know you get up early as fuck. I said it so you could wake up, play MCG, look at your stuff, have some coffee, but no.
I also had to prep for a game.
Please, I know you don't prep.
I wing everything. They said good job winging it.
Yeah, I want to try.
I should have said Hellraiser though. That was a great point.
I know. Stealing Stories from the Devil. I'm gonna have to try that. That's something else I'm interested in. Maybe I'll do that when I'm there. Good job winging it. Look, if I know a good winging it GM, it's him and I. We could literally sit down, have a theory, run Cypher, and co-GM something and never talk. Like, I 100% think we could do it. I don't think there'd be any problem in it. So we're gonna go into the next one. We're gonna talk how to run horror movies. We hit on some of the stuff in the first video. Feel free to kind of like retouch on some of those. But really, it's the art of running it. Like, I think setting the table, how to do it. I also put some other things in here, like bringing pre-gens. Think about the setting. You mentioned that earlier with Cujo. So, like, maybe run the setting or the IP. So we can talk about some of that in our last one. But this is all about how to run horror movies, like how to actually do it. I have some really spicy takes on this that are going to piss some fucking GMs off. And that is what I'm known for doing. So let me go back to solo cam, put up piece again. We'll record this last one. Everybody stay here. We're not going anywhere. Let me rewind our music here. I'm going to put on White Bat makes a bunch of amazing music, right? And they have White Bat did John Carpenter's remake of his soundtrack. And it is fucking amazing. So we're going to put that on. There we go. Because I'm going to pick one game. Actually, we should talk about that. What Do we have a horror movie we want to talk about running?
I don't know. You could pick a movie. Pick something that they...
I'll pick something out of, you know what? We'll give Hellraiser some love.
Okay.
We didn't do Hellraiser. We'll do Hellraiser, and then we'll do, what is another good one? Phantasm. No, Hellraiser and Exorcist. I think Exorcist is a really good one because that's difficult to do. All right, so I'm going to start recording now, everybody. Start the music. 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody, we're back for part 3, the final part, the best part, the part you've all been waiting for. How do you run a horror movie game? Well, I have Anthony from Cypher Unlimited with me to talk about how to run these things because let's be real. Not many games and game systems like Cypher can do exactly that. Run anything in the fucking world. People try it with 5e, and some of you are successful. I just think a lot of you are lying to yourself because you're too lazy or too scared to learn a new system. So let's go over to him and let's talk about how we can run horror movie games using Cypher and other games other than 5e. Look, I left up Dead Meat here. I think this is a really good kind of like background piece, but what horror movie we want to do? Before the show, we were talking maybe doing Hellraiser or doing Exorcist as we talk about how to run horror movies. I am down for any horror movie. Do you have one that you think is a great template for people? It doesn't have to be those two.
I think The Exorcist would be a good one to tackle because it's difficult.
All right, so we'll do difficult. I think that and Phantasm are the two ones I think are really difficult to run. Puppet Master also would be a great horror movie to do, just as a side note to everybody. Creepy children, they're dolls. But let's talk about running horror movies. I think that there is an art to actually running the game. Our first 2 videos were, how to do GM stuff, how to do player stuff in the first one. We talked about our favorite ones and systems that we would use. For this one, I want to specifically use Cypher, along with pulling mechanics from some other game systems, showing how you could kind of make your own child, your horror child of a system to run things. So let's do Exorcist. Let's talk about how we would prep for Exorcist.
All right, the first thing...
Watch the fucking movie?
The first thing I'm going to do, obviously, is watch every version of Exorcist that you possibly can.
Yeah, TV series is really good, by the way.
Yeah. The first concept I'm going to do with something like The Exorcist, and I'm going to randomly roll right before the game starts somebody to be the possessed character.
Oh, why before?
Because I want that person to not have a preconceived notion of what a possessed person should be like before the actual game starts. So it gives the tension of, hey, you're going to sit down, you all have your characters, you're going to make all the characters based somehow in the occult, either fighting the occult or knowledge of the occult, and then make one of those people the possessed exorcist character at the very beginning of the game, and it's, hey, Eric, you're the possessed person.
Yeah, I think I would have a number, and I think that whoever is the closest to that number, like I'd have everybody roll at the beginning and I'd have them be that possessed person. But I do agree, I would kind of want to know in advance so I could start feeding them ideas on like how they're gonna fucking do it. You know what I mean? Like what to do that. I think that watching the movie, pre-rolling, and I think the thing that a lot of people miss that's important in horror movies from the 80s and 90s are easier to run because they're pre-cell phone. And anything that you can run pre-cell phone is very important. So I think while The Exorcist is a big fucking franchise with some bad movies, some good ones, and a pretty fucking good TV series, I think I would pick the year that I'm running this, or the year time frame that I'm running this. I think that's hella important because if you don't pick your year, you're gonna make mistakes. Like people are gonna ask for the cell phone right away. And once I pick that year, you go look up. There's only one thing you got to look up. That's really important. What technology exists in that time frame? Because your players immediately go to easy solutions when you're doing this stuff, and it's always technology. Oh, well, I'll just look up how to do it on my phone. Oh, I'll just look up how to do this on my phone. Oh, I'll go to the library and use computer. Well, that's different. Now you're going to be in a spot where people are. You're not in the privacy of your car. Makes a huge difference. And payphones are a great place to have horrible shit happen to players. So pick your time frame. I don't recommend doing future for your first couple of horror games. I think it's harder to run. I think horror, sci-fi, building suspense is hard to run unless you're doing just body horror. What do you think? Do you think time frame matters for
time frame absolutely matters. For the example of The Exorcist, it doesn't matter as much because if we're using the cipher system, right, you always have the option of the demonic possession, shutting all Wi-Fi, everything down anyway.
Yeah.
Because for something like The Exorcist, I would want I would want all the scenes to be contained either in a house, a hospital, a mental asylum. Like, I want to limit the amount of locations I'm going to be able to take my players through and keep it in one specific area. I like the idea of a mental asylum or something of that nature, where you have enough rooms that, you can still do different things. But I want to keep it contained to one location. If I
would run it on a bus going cross country. Because
that'll work.
That gives them access to objects and cargo outside.
Mm-hmm.
If the bus isn't totally full, like just put like 10 people on it, like maybe everyone got dropped off and you're going through a countryside, that gives you that long stretch of road. Make it, honestly, man, if you want to get fucking spicy, no matter how you run The Exorcist, the thing you are going to have to bring yourself up to speed on is the surface level Catholicism of how you're going to handle the exorcism. Unless you're going to run your own version of it and use like a totally different religion, whatever you pick, you are going to have to brush up on like some fun verbiage, some rites, some things that you do, holy water, salt, blessing, crosses, all that kind of stuff. You're going to have that set up. And I think a bus would be awesome because they're cut off.
I like the bus idea. It's pretty cool.
If it goes stranded, they're fucked. There's a bathroom on the bus to get water. Like, it's a whole set piece. If you're on one of those like Greyhound coaches, then back in the day, the seats were bigger, so you could lay somebody down in them.
You know what else is cool too? If we're talking about The Exorcist, I would have the players write 5 or 6 facts, personal facts about their character.
Not facts, my friend. Secrets.
Yeah, because one of the cool things about, like, especially Linda Blair's Exorcist, is that she would spit out something that only you would know.
Yeah.
Right?
Ooh,
so
what if you took all those things?
And that's part of the fear. That's part of the
yes, I agree, because it knows the people, and that's how it gets in their head.
Yeah.
I think that you have everyone write like 3 to 5 facts and secrets. They got to be things that you don't want other people to know. Like if someone opened your phone, the shit you wouldn't want them to find, that's the shit that should be there. I think you write those out, tear them up, and you hand that to the person who's possessed and say, you can spend points. No, you can spend points because you should still be using your pools because if the body gets tapped, the demon's easier to exorcise, right? Because you need a mechanic, which we'll get into, but I think they can spend points and then read that fucking secret. And I think that to make one of these things work well, I really think you have to have good connections between your players. They have to know each other at least somewhat in passing. If you're on a bus, they could all be going to like a youth camp. If you're running younger, if you're running older, it could be the parents coming home. Like after like you drop the kids off, you rode the bus with them there because they're young, and you're coming back and there's one sick kid and that's the fucking possessed person. Because kids are creepy. You don't hurt them then, well, unless you're Nova. Inside joke for the EFP people. But I think you could do something like that. I love that. I think secrets that you give to the possessed. My question is, and this comes down to like game mechanics and set pieces, would you have a player play the possessed? I feel like you get really hostile doing that. I almost think it needs to be a family member, someone important, the bus driver, the GM's playing like a beloved NPC if you're bringing this into a game you play.
But ultimately, I could see starting off the game as an NPC being possessed, but ultimately, the ultimate fuck you, I'm gonna scare the shit out of you moment is getting a character possessed.
So if a character
because if you watch The Exorcist, it does transfer from body to body.
It does.
Yeah.
I think you could. I think you could start with someone who's possessed, and you can make it an interaction that causes it, that it transfers to an NPC or a PC. But I think there has to be a breaking point. Like there has to be a point to where the dial turns from PC to NPC, because there's shit that happens to the possessed person I don't think a player is going to want to go through. I would, because fuck ever. You give me a possessed person at the table, I am no longer your friend. I am going to go deep. You pick the right person, but there's other people that aren't going to want to play that. I almost wonder if you make the possessed a plant. Like, do you
or you could play it that once the character is possessed, they no longer control the character.
Yeah. Or if I'm running
to
this
avoid that uncomfortability.
If I'm running this at a convention, I have a bunch of people at the table. One of those person's a plant, and they know they're playing the possessed person, and it gets passed off them. So maybe you have it to a player first, and they exercise it, and when they do, the person who's exercising it is the plant, and now you got that person who can play it. The only reason is man, dude, the amount of like crazy shit that player would have to go through. I just fear the average consumer would either not be up for it or just seriously just couldn't do it. With that said, PC or NPC, however you end up doing it, there has to be mechanics in place, because at the end of the day, the job is to force out the possession. But since it's a 2.5-hour movie, you really have to have a way to make it so it's not one roll. It has to be like stages. How do you mechanically do that in Cypher? Because in Cypher, a lot of things is just one check and you're out. I think I would use power shifts. I think I'd make them whittle power shifts off of them to be able to force them out. Like, until all the power shifts are gone, you can't get rid of the possessed. Like, you got to do something.
You could do the horror mode, but in reverse. That every time they tick off on one of the horror mode, it removes a level of a layer of the possession. So the characters start off at a 10, and the object is to break them down to a 1 or 2 to be able to they'll be susceptible to remove the demon from their body.
Yeah, I think that, or I would bring clocks in from Blades in the Dark.
I was also thinking clocks actually work.
Clocks are something that work in every single game. And the thing I do with clocks that a lot of people don't do is, let's say it's clocks are a timer, physical representation with a pi, for those who don't know. It's 4, 6, or 4, 6, or 12, 4, 6, 8, or 12. And it determines basically how many checks they have to make and how long it's going to last. I think you could get away with running a clock that's about 8 or 6, and every time they succeed in doing something, you fill a pie. But what I do differently is every 2, I unlock a new power for that person. So like The Exorcist, you start seeing more of the demon's powers the closer they are to shoving it out.
Yeah, their bodies start contorting, climbing the walls, head spinning,
better secrets, horrible things, harming people, because she kills people. Yeah. You have to have that ability in there.
Chat also brought up that you can have a co-GM to play the possessed.
Well, I think a planted person. Yeah. Like, I would have them sit down at the table and not tell the party they're a plant. And then you just have them play it, because then they've talked to you and they're up for it. Yeah. So you could possess somebody early and that body is too weak, and then you force it off to someone else. But I think a clock where the crescendo, yes, exactly, as a crescendo builds is what you need to do that. So let's talk about then the Exorcist powers. How do we make it to where the players are in jeopardy? There are things in Cypher that make it to where you're a hero. And our goal is to get rid of the heroicness and cause risk. I think you got to shift recoveries. I don't think there's like maybe you give them a standard and everything else is an hour to recover.
Or you could do damage that removes you off the damage track directly. People tend to forget that that's actually an option.
What do you mean by that for the audience?
Like, as in, instead of taking direct points from your pools stay the same, but you go down the damage track.
Oh, yeah. The hail harm, that one.
Yeah, there's 4 tracks in a Cypher system character, and once you hit the 4th track, you're dead. So, like, you could actually, so when a bad thing occurs to you, the characters can still use their pools for effort and all that. It's just not going to take physical damage. It's just going to lower you down on the damage track. So even if you heal, you're not healing points. You're just bringing yourself back up one level on the damage track.
You know what? I think I would get super spicy. Nick, you're on the same page with me, my friend. I think I would ditch in-game time, and I would literally take a timer and set that bitch on the table. It was like, you have 4 hours to solve this problem. And I would set it down, and unless a real hour is passed in real time, you don't get a recovery. I would force time to be the dictation of pace, because if you're only going to run this once and it's only going to be a 4-hour piece, why not put real-time pressure on them? Because you gotta make them feel like they're fucked. 1-to-1 time ratio. Exactly.
Yeah, the beauty about Cypher system is plug and play to begin with. So there's nothing any rule that we can't remove that's going to affect other aspects of the game. So even if you remove recovery rolls, it's not going to really change anything.
So people don't remember this. When you rode on buses in the 80s and 90s, they used to have an actual secondhand clock at the front of the bus. It wasn't a digital timer until the 90s. So you could easily just sit down and put an old school clock on the table and start timer. I think that could be a really fun way to make people be visceral about the time problem. And that takes me into like the next piece. So we've obviously went through, watched the movie, super important. We've also talked about thinking about the setting, the world, when you're going to place it, what time frame. We've just talked about some of the rules that we do to do this. I also think pick your powers that you want her to have. Look at the movie, find powers. Don't worry about a foci and that kind of shit. Just fucking make it a monster. Pick powers and give them powers that match what they do. And then next to them, I would unlock them based on the pies and have them be big scene moments. Maybe even that's your GM intrusions. When those clocks fill, you get a GM intrusion. And that's how you pace your GM intrusions. I know a lot of people question when to use them. This gives you a time and when to use them.
And it's important to realize that there's no winning in the exorcism.
No, someone's dying. Everyone's dying.
Yeah,
Getting fucked.
There's no winning. There's no defeating the devil. It's whether you could save the person, saving the person that's possessed.
Yeah.
With the least minimal damage you could possibly do to that person.
Cryptic says summon pea soup is required. Which is what they use when she's vomiting. I also would take us into our next thing. Pre-gens. Do not let the players make the pre-gens. Make your own. Make extras. And show those NPCs that they don't pick while you're running the game. The best thing you can do in a game where there's like let's say you have 4 players. Also, I think keep it tight, keep it right. I wouldn't have more than 3 to 4 players for this.
Yeah, I agree.
I keep it really tight because that 4th or 5th person is going to be the possessed. I think you keep it tight, but you make a cast of 8 because as you murder motherfuckers off, they could have been dealing with other people, and you go, all right, your character died. Any NPC you've seen so far, who would you like to be? The cop that showed up that had someone in cuffs? Do you want to be the altar boy who's making the holy water downstairs? Do you want to be the mother of this person who's been crying in the hall? What do you want to be? The childhood friend? Do you want to be the secret that got pulled up? Like, there's always the cheater. There was someone who was cheating with someone else that has a whole second family or something. It talks like you slept with whoever. Do you want to be that person who shows up? Does someone make that phone call? Do they run into the other room? But have a cast of pre-gens that you can do. And now, honestly, the internet has made this shit so easy. Cypher just got their new builder for making everything. You can make characters in fucking 10 minutes. If you were to use any other system like Shadow Dark, pick a system that lets you generate characters fast. Because I think that's going to make a big difference in how you run it. Is there anything you think for pre-gens that are required? I think you need different archetypes. That's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah. Every possible solution for you got to allow one of the characters in the pre-gens to have access to that possible solution. So like all those characters you mentioned, they all should have a diverse difference of abilities to allow the players different, you want them to be able to solve the problem in different creative ways. So you don't want to make the cookie cutter fighter guy, the cookie cutter, run fast guy. You want to have a diverse group of characters that all play different at the table. So it's like what you said. You want the police. So I like the idea of the bus. Yeah. So I would probably do something like a bus driver.
I think that's the person who gets possessed. It's the only way you're getting home. If any of you think you can drive a bus, you're a fucking liar. Yeah. I've driven a bus. It's not normal. And if it's damaged, you're not going to know what to do. But I agree. And you got to think, too, your cast of NPCs is just either the kids and what they did is what they're good at, or the parents of those kids, and now it's their occupations you base them around. You can have a firefighter and a cop that don't get along but know each other because they work in the same city. You can have a youth leader who's there who was part of the trip. They got sick and are coming back. Start them with like a penalty to any form of roles versus like possession because they're ill.
Yeah.
The things like that. Have somebody who's injured already and they're coming back. Maybe there's a teenager that was supposed to be a guidance counselor there, but they broke their leg the first day there and they rode back with the family. So now you have someone who can't run, but maybe they're really smart. There's some things like that you can do to really build character into the characters. Also, don't have a problem having some people start injured or with maladies or problems, because it makes horror movies better when people not only overcome the horror in the scene, but they overcome their maladies or issues that they have as a person. Broken leg, can't see, just had eye surgery, has an eye patch, missing an arm but has to drive the bus, is in a wheelchair and doesn't normally have to drive, but they find a way to do it. Shit like that could work really well, because we all know the players are going to do this thing, and this is part of my next piece. You got your pre-gens, you have your players make some secrets, or fuck it, you make the secrets. The next piece is you need to have 2 to 4 scenes that you know, without a shadow of a doubt, you want to have play out. Out of those, you have to be willing to randomly cut to, because players take longer to do things than you are anticipating. Always. They will ever.
And you want the introduction scene where it's going to flesh out all the characters involved in the story, right? You want that middle scene. The middle scene is going to be the change in the narrative that's going to propel the second half of your game into more dangerous territory. So you want that transition scene, and you want the ending scene, because like in all great horror movies, there's going to have to be a scene where shit hits the fan and it's life or death situation. The last 30 minutes of the game, all the characters' lives are going to be in jeopardy, are going to be a threat, and they're going to have to make decisions to end the game. Right, I'll have those 3 scenes fleshed out, whatever they may be, in my head, have images for them, have music for them, have everything set. And if you have those 3 scenes mapped out, the players can help build on the rest. But those are the 3 that are imperative that you have to have planned and written and prepped out.
Yeah, I think those are important to have a mechanic or a trigger effect set for them so you know how to use them. It's one of those things that, like, if you don't set some scenes, you don't have a way to move your players from point A to point B. You've already set them in an enclosed space. Like, all the doors slamming shut and keeping them locked in is great. And the first time somebody goes to climb out the window, slam that fucking window shut. Cut their fucking fingers off. Slam the window shut on them. That's the thing you would do to kind of fix that. For those that are live, don't worry, we're recording this. Absolutely fine that it jumped. We're still good. Glad you guys are back with us. So I just feel that if you don't set some scenes and bullet points in your head, they don't have to be exorbitant. They can just be like 2 sentences with a mechanic next to them, or a DC next to them, or a task if you're playing in Cypher. Have those things ready to go and set your tasks in advance. Have a general idea of tasks written at the top of your page. The reason I say, encircle the main one. The reason I say that is, as you get into the scene, you get more into the role play of the moment, you forget your mechanics, and you have to look things up. The quicker you can just glance down and see the big highlighted task 3 for everything in the game, you will remember it. And then you scale it up based on things that are going on. Like, if someone gets their hand chopped off, and they're going to start looking for water that they can turn into holy water, that's going to be harder to start digging through shit. So bump that task level up. Make it a 4 for every time they're doing anything physical. Tell them to write it on their character sheet. Those things are important. Also, in a tight spot like this, you got to have something like this question. So we've had 3 people die. You guys have been here for a couple hours. Where are you putting the bodies? What? Where are you putting the bodies? Why? I mean, she's a demon. You don't think I'm going to possess the bodies? And then they will waste time trying to move the bodies, thinking maybe that's important. Yeah. But you forced some of the smart characters to go, whoa, 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 whoa. I took it. They can't animate a dead body. That's not how this works. They can only possess real. Like, it forces some inner strife when you do things like that. I think those are necessary as well. Having questions kind of posed and ready. And then the most important, and I think we talked about this in all the other segments we've done, and tell me if you don't agree, have something for dead players to do.
Yeah.
Don't leave when you're only doing a 2 or 3 hour set piece. You're dead players at the wayside with nothing to do.
Dead players shouldn't be dead for long, and what I mean by that is not the actual player. Yeah. The actual player either is picking up another character. You should never have people just sitting there just waiting for the game to end.
And don't make them generate one either. Have one ready if you're going to do
that. Yeah. That's why in horror games I always have like 10 pre-gens pre-made so they could just jump right into another character. And that way death isn't like you don't. If your character dies, yeah, I was attached to this character, but it isn't important for me to enjoy the overall game. Mm-hmm. You know, you be like, okay, my character died, I'm gonna play the next character, I'm gonna move on. Mm-hmm. You know, I always found it funny when someone runs a horror game and there's only 4, and I mean there's only 4 main characters, because if someone dies within the first 10 minutes of the game, they no longer participating.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that 100%. I also think the thing that you can do that is important is I like to have some random tables in games. Random tables were a huge thing in the 80s and 90s. They went away for a while because I think people look at random tables wrong. And we've talked about this on this show a lot while we've went over things for Shadow Dark. Think of them less like random tables and more like sparks of interest or inspiring ideas. I think that you should have a list of objects that can be found on that bus. Just a fucking stupid random table of stuff. Have some things you know are on there, but roll on that table in advance and just have some cool things that are put together to find. The other thing I recommend doing that's fun in horror games is there should be something that the players have to roll once in a while to cause problems. Like a D6 to see if, like, you know, maybe that medical kit, the medical kit is empty when they go to it. A D6 roll, like at a 1 in 6 chance. Or as the horror moves up, if you're using Cypher, 1, 2, 3, 4, shit gets more difficult. Like, oh, we're gonna go look for supplies. Those supplies are gone. She's boiled all the water. The water's fucking gone. Things like that. But
she raised the heat on the bus. She
yes,
cut off
yes. Things like that. Let them really fuck with it. Crank the heat up to a hell level, where people are now like, maybe because of that, a secret gets revealed and someone has like a horrible like Hell's Angels tattoo on them. You know that they were part of a fucking biker gang now. Shit like that. But these are the ideas for running movie IPs that I think are important. Really take an hour or 2 by yourself, sit down and watch the movie, take notes, deconstruct what you watch, and rebuild it for the system that you chose. Well, with that, that's our 3rd segment. For those who are watching this, Anthony, any parting words? I'm going to put all your stuff obviously down below for Cypher Unlimited, Monty Cook Games. Do you have anything big coming up that people should know about?
Just check out the Cypher Unlimited Discord. It's the largest fan-run Discord server for everything MCG. You know, if you just want to learn the system, join that Discord server. You know, you find a game. We have games practically being run every day, or at least a few every week. So if you just want to learn the Cypher system or learn anything about Monty Cook Games, that's the place for you. Or go to our YouTube or Twitch channels. We stream every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And all the videos go up on YouTube. And, you know, we play actual plays. We interview people in the gaming industry. We talk about everything MCG. You know, if you find it kind of y'all, give us a subscription there. It'll be greatly appreciated.
And I'll put all the links here also in for our live show that we have right now. There is their Discord. I've put them in a couple times, and then this is their YouTube. Go give them a like and follow from people from EFP. They'll be down below as well. With that, you get to go run a game tonight, so we're going to cut this one off, everybody. I will say, again, thanks for joining. We got to shoot the shit. A little more pressed for time than we thought, but fuck it. We got to do what you want.
It is what it is.
Pick up Stay Alive if you haven't. I think it's probably the best Cypher horror book that's out right now. And Magnus Archives is released, so I know what I'm going to be doing this afternoon.
Yeah, I know. Last bit of advice I want to give, if you're running horror, it's best what fucking scares you will probably scare your players.
Yeah, 100%. If it scares you, it scares other, and kids are fucking creepy. That is it for EFP today, everybody. You know the routine. Say goodbye to Anthony or Spigs, everybody. Stay in the wings. We'll be right back with you. Thank you so much for joining. If you're watching this live, we're going to be cutting the stream as well in just a minute. But for those that are watching this third segment on YouTube, look, you've been here enough times. There's a bell. You click it. It's how you get saved in horror games. They need to hear you. Turn it on all. Then you'll know when I go live or new videos come out. Over here and here, there's going to be things to watch. Thank you so much for taking your time to watch this game. Watch, listen, learn. Be a better gamer. Run some horror this month. Your players deserve it. Now for our group, thanks for joining us, man. This is awesome to have you on. I'm going to cut us off here. We're going to go in the wings. Thank you to the audience. If you have any questions, comment down below in this video. I'll have it up. I'll be looking at it on and off all day. These segments are going to go up through the rest of October and a little more bite-sized morsels for everybody. But thank you for joining us. So many good comments today in the audience from people. I hope you guys enjoyed this. We have some more stuff like this coming in the future. But that's it for us. Wave bye, buddy.